Hello and welcome to Lakewood Next Daily Devotions. All right, happy Wednesday. So I wanted to start by telling you a story, and I apologize, this is going to have some spoilers in it if you haven't read it, but the first book I read and really enjoyed was in 5th grade, and it was The Giver by Lois Lowry. And the problem that I have with this book, though, is when I read it later in life with my wife, we disagreed on the ending. Because it's my belief that at the end of the story, the main character dies. It really points to that. And I'm not going to go through all that today, but that's my belief on it. But if I were to get to talk to the author, if I went and found Lois Lowry, and I said, hey, does he die in the end? And if she were to say, no, he doesn't, my argument falls flat. Now, at that point, it doesn't matter what I think, because I'm not the author. That's an important concept to get as we talk about this today. Because in our text, Jesus is going to continue in his struggle with the Pharisees, specifically around the laws of the Sabbath. But remember this, that Jesus is the author of the law. He not only knows what it says, he knows what it means. So yesterday, Jesus had an encounter with the Pharisees in regards to the Sabbath. And so in today's text, Jesus is going to have another encounter, but he just left that first one. And then on the same day, he enters into the synagogue. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 12, starting in verse 9. He says this, "He went from there and entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. And they asked him, 'Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?' So they might accuse him." So Jesus enters the synagogue, and there happens to be a man there with a withered hand. Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Pharisees intentionally placed this man there specifically to set up this scenario. Because the cultural law, not the law of God given about the Sabbath, but the cultural law stated that healing on the Sabbath could only happen if someone's life was in immediate danger. This man had a shriveled hand. It wasn't life-threatening. And so, cultural laws dictated that his healing must be delayed until the following day. Now, Jesus was known for healings. He was known for kind of skirting around some of the Sabbath laws, and so they set this up to trap him in his words. It's funny. I've got 5 kids, and they're all great most days. But every now and then, one of our kids will try to manipulate us into something. And it is so painfully obvious what they're trying to do. It's just one of those things, like, they'll start going and we'll just kind of call it out. And it's because it's just so transparent. And sometimes they ask us, how on earth did you know what I was trying to do here? And the answer is because I have more experience, I have more wisdom, and I tried that one before when I was your age. Now, Jesus is not a manipulator. He didn't try these things. But he is God, which means that he knows the human heart and the law of God more completely than they could possibly understand. Which means that they can't really use the law of God to trap God. And so in this big scenario that they've set up trying to trap Jesus, he then does what Jesus does. He turns it around on them. Starting in verse 11, he said to them, "Which one of you has a sheep? If it falls in the pit on the Sabbath, will not take hold of it and lift it out? Of how much more value is a man than a sheep? So it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then he said to them, "Stretch out your hand," or said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And the man stretched it out, and it was restored, healthy like the other. But the Pharisees went out and conspired against him on how to destroy him. See, Jesus points to something that they would all do. If your sheep falls into a hole, you get the sheep out. It's what you do. It was considered a good thing, and good things are allowed on the Sabbath. And so Jesus said, why would it be okay to do good by a sheep, by an animal, and not do good by a person who is so much more valuable? Once again, the Pharisees used the Sabbath as a tool to condemn, but Jesus points them to its heart. While they were passionate about the laws, they had missed the lawgiver even though he stood right in front of them. So my encouragement for you today, don't miss the heart of the lawgiver. Rest in his goodness. Do good as an extension of his arm. Take the weight of being good off your shoulders and know that your rest is not in your productivity or your obedience, but in his love. And from that love, we then get to love those that God puts in our path. Rest well. Be good.